This week, I'm checking out another Wii game. It's called the Conduit, and it's an FPS game that takes advantage of the Wiimote and Nunchuck. This one, honestly, had interested me years ago when I read about it, and I think it was a magazine. I was stunned by the graphics, and it looked intriguing. Well, intriguing it is, but does it play out as well as it looks? Well, I'll get to that in a bit. First, let's start with the story, as is the norm for my reviews. You play as a man named Ford, who is tasked with taking down a man known as Prometheus. This man is supposedly in charge of reanimating corpses into what are simply called puppets, in addition to creating these conduits, which allow an alien army known as the Drudge to pour through and invade Washington, D.C. In fact, the game itself takes place in and around D.C. One whole mission is devoted to exploring a damaged White House. It's pretty cool, and not something you see often. But back to the story. A few missions in, you get your normal plot twist in which you get betrayed. So you start working for Prometheus and hunt down Adams, the guy who left you for dead. Spoiler? Not really. When playing the game, you'll get little hints here and there that indicate that Adams isn't entirely truthful with you. Plus, this happens very early on, so you don't really get to work with Adams too long before Prometheus recruits you for his true cause. I won't explain what happens at the end though, because it wraps up the plot nicely. With the game taking place in DC, you do get to fight in some notable landmarks. I've already mentioned the ravaged White House, but there are other places that you fight in, like the Jefferson Memorial and the Metro tunnels. For the most part, the levels are fairly interesting, but at times there are segments that just seem to blend into each other, making everything look repetitive. Overall though, the game contains some pretty good set pieces. I may as well talk about the graphics now. To be honest, I was super impressed with them. They look amazing, considering the Wii's hardware. It's rare that I've seen a Wii game with so much detail to it. Bullets leave marks on walls, blood spatters all over when enemies are hit. The conduits themselves have a cool bright effect to them. Even the weapons have some nice touches put into them. All in all, it's probably one of the better looking games on the Wii, at least that I've seen and played. And that's not to say there aren't no problems though. Several times I've seen graphical glitches. In the library, whenever I looked up, I could see the ceiling bugging out, almost like there were a few textures that were trying to commingle with each other and failing miserably. This happens at other times too, but it's never really a huge issue because it never interferes with the gameplay. The gameplay. This is where the game both shines and flounders. That may sound a little contradicting, but let me explain. To start from the beginning, since the game is on the Wii, you need to use the Wiimote along with the Nunchuck. By default, you use the Wiimote to move the crosshair and the analog stick on the Nunchuck to move around. You can change the controls to suit your own preferences, but I kept it the same. In addition, you can change the way that the HUD is laid out. Want the health meter right in the middle of the screen? You can do that. If you want to put all the menus and stuff on the top or bottom of the screen, you can. The game doesn't limit you at all. Naturally, if you put shit in your way, it'll make the game a bit more difficult because you won't be able to see. Anyway, I'm getting away from the topic. As I said, you need to use the Wiimote to aim. Although this may not sound horrible, it really depends on how well you can move the Wiimote around before you accidentally put it out of the sensor bar's area. At first I was doing okay, although it took a bit of getting used to using the minus button to reload or the right button on the directional pad to switch weapons. But as you progress through the game and get to some more difficult parts, you may find that you'll tune and shoot your enemies that are behind you and accidentally steer the cursor right off the screen, so you'll take unnecessary hits while you try to reorient yourself. There were several times where I spent more time fighting the Wiimote than actually shooting aliens or puppets. Hell, there was even a time where my batteries in the Wiimote died and I died because of it. I'm not faulting the game on that one, but it's still bullshit. The Wii should have at least announced when the batteries are getting low or paused the game when it doesn't detect it. I'll be honest, as much as I was frustrated with the Wiimote, which was a lot, I did have fun playing the game. The gameplay itself is pretty solid. You run around from point A to point B, killing everything in sight and at times fulfilling objectives. Most of these objectives just consist of clearing a room or activating an object with ASE, which I'll get to next. As you're killing your threats, you can swap out your weapons, pick up health packs, and destroy secondary targets like repair stations for the Drudge. There's a fair selection of weapons, and for the first time in a while, this game doesn't include the staples like an AK-47 or M4. Instead, the only humanoid weapons you'll find are a SCAR, a USP, and an MP5. That's not all of your weapons, of course. There are two other factions to the game. The Trust, which are a secret government agency, and the Drudge. The Trust fire weapons that seem to use an ammo type resembling plasma, and the weapons all emit blue-colored projectiles. The Drudge, on the other hand, use an orangish bullet, and have the advantage of bouncing off the walls one time, allowing you to kill things around corners by skillfully banking shots. It's pretty cool, although each faction has a gun that's a bit more rare so that the ammo isn't as plentiful. These weapons aren't always the best to use either. So in addition to the weapons you'll be carrying, you'll also acquire something called the All-Seeing Eye, or ASE. This is mainly your puzzle solving tool. When you get to a terminal that needs to be hacked, you just press the plus button to bring out the ASE, and then hold Z to begin hacking the device. This isn't the only use for it. Some of the Drudge enemies are cloaked, and can only be seen, and therefore damaged, by using the ASE to short-circuit their cloaking device. You can use the ASE to collect data disks, and also to view hidden messages on walls. These function as the collectibles of the game, but I'm not sure exactly how much time you're going to want to spend on finding them. The data disks don't seem to give you any information on the current events going on in the game, and seem only to function as a collectible. The hidden messages can only be seen when pointing the ASE at them, and even so you still need to use the ASE to permanently uncover the message for it to count in your totals. In addition, you can use the ASE to solve the puzzles that consist of the trust logo. In this, you have to rotate the 3 rings so that they all line up with the pyramid on the bottom. Once you do so, a secret room nearby will open up. These secret rooms allow you to replenish some ammo types, and also usually gives you access to a special upgraded weapon. These specialized weapons don't have a replenishable ammo, so these should be kept as a backup for the more difficult parts of the game. Thankfully, the ASE will show a little warning when something that you can interact with is nearby, short of the data disks and hidden messages. You don't want to ignore this, because there are also hidden landmines, called ghost mines, that can only be disarmed with ASE. So if you see that icon pop up, take a quick look around to make sure you're not walking into a hostile area that will cause instant death. Instant death. Funny I should mention that. As much fun as that I had with the Conduit, I can say it's one of the most frustrating games I have ever played. The controls had some part in it, honestly, but I can't fault the game for this because I'm willing to bet money that a good chunk of that issue was on me alone. Instead, the game has some challenging parts that are just purely infuriating. The biggest contributor to this is the 8th level, which is the second to last. That's right, there's only 9 stages, but each takes about 30 to 60 minutes each to complete. But that's not what I want to talk about. Instead, this room here is possibly the worst room I have ever played. I can say that I honestly spent over an hour on this room alone, just trying to complete it. As I was killing things, I kept dying by a ton of different things. To be honest, I felt that a lot of times, the causes of these deaths were mysterious. I had no idea how I died. I'd just be walking around and bam, I'd fall over stone cold dead. This happened multiple times. I think part of this is because when enemies charge their shots, they do a critical amount of damage. If you have anything less than about 3/4 of your health, you're probably dead if the shot connects. That's not everything. I just felt like I just croaked like I had a heart attack under the stress or something. I can say that I yelled, "This is fucking bullshit," multiple times. And my friends on TeamSpeak with me at the time were laughing about it. Go ahead and ask them. They'll say that's true. And that's the Conduit for you. It's honestly kind of hard to score this one. I did enjoy it, I really did, but there were some parts that just made me want to literally throw the Wiimote out of the window. This was the first time I was ever that angry with the game. But at the same time, I was enjoying the gameplay mechanics. And the developers did do an awesome job with the Wii's special hardware to make the controls work well. Even so, I admit that the game would have been a lot more enjoyable if it was on a different console, or possibly even if you could use the Wii's Pro Controller. Even so, the game is fun to a point, and it's something you should check out if you have a Wii. Oh, and by the way, Hercules is the voice of Prometheus. How cool is that? If you're confused, Kevin Sorbo played Hercules in the old 90s TV show, and Prometheus is a Greek titan that gave fire to humankind. Maybe it's just me that thinks this is cool since I was always big in the Greek mythology? I don't know. Anyway, final score? This one's tough. I enjoyed the game, yet I can't help but hate the controls at times. This is one of the hardest to score games I've ever played. Let's go with 7 out of 10 on this one. And we'll call it a day. As always, I'm Reaper. Check me out on Facebook, facebook.com/ReapersReviews. Happy fragging.